Perfect. All right. So, Kayleen, thank you for joining me today and telling us about your builder journey and story. So, first, if you would like to introduce yourself and who you are, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, my name's Kayleen. I am a multi-time founder. I just spent the last 5 years with my last company, Flexia, which made a smart Pilates machine, and I exited last summer. So I am currently cooking up my next company and have been having a lot of fun with the tinkering and vibe coding.
Very cool. And tell us a little bit about your journey to vibe coding and how did you get here and decide to start building your own platform?
Um, I like building things. I'm a mechanical engineer. And I, my journey into mechanical engineering and through it into a startup was very much centered around, well, I like bringing things to life. And the way I did that was with my hands. My dad was a woodworker. I could build things and bring them to life. Um, and I was really curious to try vibe coding. I think I started like tinkering more early 2025 because I've always had a ton of ideas, but the software side of bringing something to life was always really hard and intimidating for me. I took a few programming classes in college and grad school, but um, like beyond the first few weeks, it was really hard for me. It was not something that super jived, and I really don't like. I don't want to get bogged down in all of the syntax and memorizing things, and that's not. I like thinking about how things fit together. And vibe coding was intriguing because it was a way for me to take the ideas out of my head, see them on the screen almost instantly, and make changes and iterate really quickly. Whereas my experience before had always been trying to communicate the idea to someone else to build, takes weeks to get the first iteration back. And then you realize, oh, I really wasn't that clear about this, or I actually, in the meantime, want to think about something else. And it was just a slow and expensive process. And so um, vibe coding was my entry point into I'm going to get this done myself
Yeah.
and play. And it's been super, super fun.
And what was the first tool that you jumped when you jumped into that vast ocean of vibe coding? What was the first tool that you kicked it off with?
Well, the first tool I did because I didn't really know anything. I tried using Claude and Xcode.
Oh boy.
And
You went
just
straight
like,
to the
what do
deep
I
end.
put in
Okay.
Claude? Tell me what do I do in Xcode?
Yeah.
And that was like I got a preview and then like immediately the first time something broke, I could not fix it. And I've heard a lot of things from other people about working in Xcode. And so then I was like, well, why don't I just try building like a web app in a regular IDE? Um, and that went slightly better. And then I found Lovable.
Mm.
And Lovable was where I made probably 10 or 12 projects in Lovable, just I just couldn't go fast enough, I think. It was quite addicting
Yeah.
and really exciting. And I think that was the one where I had the first amount of success. And actually I started using BrainGrid while I was still using Lovable. And actually it really changed the efficiency of my builds in Lovable.
That's great. No, that's really good to hear. And are you still using Lovable now, or have you kind of graduated to a new setup?
I have graduated. I've
Oh,
proudly graduated.
all right.
I got off Lovable and now I'm in Cursor.
Okay.
Yep, I use Cursor and Supabase primarily. So um, really very flexible and yeah,
Okay. So
I,
you've
I
got,
I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
there's no limit to what
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 you can
I
do.
what I could build. I mean, there are. Don't get me wrong, there is, but
Yeah.
that I feel that way. So yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so like when you've got an idea in your head, sort of, walk us through how do you take that idea to getting it implemented?
Um, when I have an idea, I have a conversation with an AI agent. Sometimes it's with ChatGPT, sometimes um, it's definitely always in BrainGrid if I have a code base already established. Um, and I share the idea and I say, imagine you're my customer. What do you think about this? Where are the holes? Where are the concerns? Over the years, I've really shifted my perspective on thinking about development from what do I want to and what would I use and solve my current problem to how do I talk about this? Does it solve someone else's problem, multiple people's problems? I can get super product obsessed. And so I really, before I start building, I want to make sure that um, the for all intents and purposes, the brand, the idea, the problem is something that really exists, and I have a way to get it in front of people. And so those conversations, I go back and forth, not very long, and create an outline. Like here are the chunks of what I want to build, and I think about what's the minimum size of this thing that I can build to see if it makes sense, to touch it and feel it, put it in front of someone. Um, and then I take that outline and I go into BrainGrid and I go, okay, this is what I want to build. I fleshed it out a little bit with language. What's the first thing I need to do?
And BrainGrid gives you that.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so now you've got that gives it to you in the form of a requirement. And obviously, as we know, you can take that requirement and break that down into tasks. So once you've gotten to that point, are you just pasting, cutting, and you copying, pasting those tasks into Cursor? Have you gotten a little more automated now? Are you using the CLI or the MCP? Kind of walk me through that next phase.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was just make the requirement, make the tasks, copy and paste, and then see if it works.
Mhm.
And over time, as my project, the biggest one I'm working on now has gotten a little bit more complicated. I've had to get a little bit more sophisticated with that implementation process. And I have a few more conversations about with the BrainGrid agent about the requirement itself. I take a little more time to review it, reviewing the tasks, and then implementing them. And for a long time, I just copied and pasted, and it was fine. And it made sense to an extent because I could check, okay, do I need to send a new migration to Supabase? Do I need to send a new function through the CLI? Like these are, I'm tracking in my head the things that are happening because I ran it. It's not a hands-off, brain-off
Yeah.
process, right?
Yeah.
But um, I just recently implemented the MCP, BrainGrid MCP, which has been really awesome, um, and allows me to pull up and implement the whole set of tasks without copying and pasting and checking and coming back, right? And then asking questions about it. Hey, what kind of edge functions were implemented and
Yeah.
what were they called so that I can double check in Supabase and make sure they were updated and all that stuff. So Yeah, now I'm working with MCP for BrainGrid and um, really happy with it.
Very cool. No, that's great to hear. So let's talk about what are you building? You talked about that, the big thing you've been on
Yeah.
and been building for a while now. Can you describe it a little more for us?
Yeah, I'm building an online platform for Pilates studios to deliver digital content to their members, primarily for in-person studios to develop their hybrid studio concept. So how do we take a fitness experience that is purely in-person driven and make it maybe a little more accessible, a little more um, effective by giving people homework or assignments outside of class while still retaining those community features that people love about in-person class. Um, is everybody doing the same class at home? Is it easy to find what you are looking for? What is in each class? I mean, this is a big problem in the fitness world, in media, for one, like Netflix, well documented. Like you have 90 seconds to get someone to pick something to watch, and then the likelihood they just leave Netflix increases exponentially after 90 seconds. It's the same with fitness platforms. So there are a lot of fitness platforms out there that enable creators to sell their content. But I think knowing what's in those classes and making it a little bit more programmatic, so there's less choice that the consumer has to go through, but it's very personalized,
Mm.
is really important. So, and I'm starting with Pilates. My background is I've been in the Pilates world for 12 years. So, starting with Pilates, where things are very esoteric and woo woo and intuitive, there's no standard metrics like in strength training or any sort of cardio. So, looking at what's taught in a class, how do you connect one class to five classes and so on. And so I think of this streaming platform as um, really a sandbox for a broader play in Pilates data.
Okay, very cool. And have you launched it yet?
It's launched. I have a couple of like early customers that we're just working through
Yep.
some issues with, which is so valuable.
Mhm. Design partners.
Um,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, so getting one of them is switching from another provider, and another one is taking a very manual system and using my platform to automate so she doesn't have to do as much manual emailing and
Mm,
finding and all that stuff.
got it. Very cool. And how has BrainGrid, helped you deliver on this vision?
BrainGrid has been instrumental because my I don't know how things need to fit together. I don't know how the right order to implement things. When I think of something in my head, say I want to make a button on the dashboard for a studio owner to turn on or off certain links for their students. And when I think about that, I'm like, oh, that sounds simple. But having BrainGrid, but telling BrainGrid that's what I want to do, BrainGrid looks at my repo and goes, well, maybe you should think about all these other things, right? What I thought was like, oh, it's just a two-step thing is actually like 8 steps. I'm not missing anything. And um, a lot of times I ask, I'm like, is there anything else that needs to fall under this umbrella or makes sense to pull in or exclude out based on what I'm thinking about? Um, and so that upfront work of specifying what exactly needs to be done with the context of how the code and then all my integrations work together is insanely valuable. And, I need to know how things work together at a high level, but I don't really want to get into the details
Yeah.
much beyond that. And
Yeah.
BrainGrid does that. Um, and then from my own experimentation of working with BrainGrid or not, like once that work is done and I implement the tasks, the success rate of it just working after is so much higher. It's so much easier um, to test, make sure it works, and troubleshoot if it doesn't because of the way that BrainGrid sets it up to be executed.
That is great to hear, and obviously love having you on the platform and the feedback you've given, and seeing your platform evolve. Where does your platform go from here? Like, what's the vision?
I want to change how people think about, teach, and do Pilates. Um, that starts with analyzing what happens in a single Pilates class and then building on that. Right now, Pilates is so free for all. There's lots of different versions of it. One of the best, I mean, I'll get into Pilates for 30 seconds and then
Hmm.
get out of it. Um, there's a lot of research on why Pilates is so effective for treating chronic conditions, back pain, rehab, etc. But even if you look at literature reviews of multiple Pilates studies, they say the limitation is that nobody actually knows what that Pilates routine looked like
Hmm.
because there's so many different ways to do Pilates. Is it 2 times a week? Did you load progressively so that it got harder over time, et cetera, et cetera? So this language, this scientific language about Pilates doesn't exist. And so that's ultimately what I want to change and to bring data into the world to do. So this very first project, like I said, it's a sandbox. It's a how can I help people, get people to use this, right? I want Pilates teachers to be able to make more money, which is a proxy for how many people they're helping and how
Yeah.
well they're helping them. Um, and I want to learn about these ideas, this new way of thinking. I want a place to test it out. Okay. So the platform right now um, takes the videos and analyzes the transcript. So, what can we pull from the transcript of the class to say, here are the exercises that were done, here are the props that were used, here are the muscle, like I make a muscle heat map based on the exercises. And then you could start building in things like, look, someone just did a class, 3 classes last week that was focused on your core.
Mhm.
Let's think about, well, let's build a balanced program based on not just the classes you're taking in Pilates, but maybe you're doing other things outside of Pilates. And so that sounds really simple, but that does not exist for Pilates specifically. So that's sort of where I think about, here's the short term tinkering goal. Let's learn and experiment so that we can get to this bigger vision where um, we have accurate data from Pilates workouts feeding
Mhm.
into these very smart, you know, quantified self health tracking systems that take into account a lot more than just one workout.
That is very cool, and it's like you're in a whole bunch of different technical domains here, and you've got to have all the Pilates expertise, and obviously don't have the classic sort of software engineering background, but you're able to through through Cursor and everything else, and obviously BrainGrid, able to achieve this vision and build this platform.
Yeah, I think that's super key. 2 years ago, I would never be able to do this bootstrapped and get something in front of people to test, much less I would never learn as much about the software development process myself if I wasn't in it. And I think that's really, really important in terms of, I raised for my last startup, I raised $6 million from VCs. And um, I don't know if I'm going to raise again for this startup, maybe. But the
Yeah.
further along I can get and the more proof points I can get, the better leverage and the better um, information I have to not just raise, but then use that money really efficiently. And so I think that, being able to vibe code really well and create a platform that's not just a janky thing that is going to be discarded once I bring on a real software developer,
Right.
is game changing for bringing any new technology into the world.
Do you think you'll have to bring on a technical co-founder? I think we've talked about this in the past a little bit, or maybe you have
Yeah,
with Nico. But at what point do you have to sort of make that transition or bring someone on?
I don't know. Um, Personally, I don't think I'll need a technical co-founder.
Hmm.
I wouldn't use that language. I think I can get further along. Um, but I will want to bring someone technical onto the team at some point because distribution is so important to
Yeah. And
early startup
you
success.
obviously you can't scale.
Oh, I can't, right? So I
Yeah, you
can't
can't do it
do
all.
all of it.
Yeah.
But in the early experimentation phase, I mean, it is night and day to how it's to be honest, it's basically, when I talk to early stage founders, I encourage people to think about what is their superpower. You're really, really good. You have an advantage at something. It might not be what you read about in the magazines, but you have an advantage.
Yeah.
And for my first company, my advantage was my mechanical engineering skills. So I took something where other companies were spending millions of dollars to develop connected fitness devices. And I did it in 9 months with $10,000 spent on a prototype. Like this
Wow.
is that was my superpower.
Hmm.
And I really feel like for this, I don't want a hardware for this startup, but I was never able to consider software as a superpower. But I think that bar has been, or that level has been changed, right? I can
Yeah.
now shorten the dev time, shorten the um, capital investment to get something to touch and feel and experiment with through vibe coding and a companion like BrainGrid. Like, I mean, it's almost like for in many ways through experimentation, like BrainGrid is my technical co-founder because it takes my mumbo jumbo and turns it into something that can be um, elegantly implemented, right? And that
And
is
works.
yes, and it works. And so I think that it makes vibe coding can make software a superpower for people who it wouldn't have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just changed dramatically. Of all the people that are able to do things and develop that superpower that they wouldn't have been able to do, you know, probably even 18 months ago.
Yes.
And now it's
Yes.
just unlocked all of these ideas and given people turn them all into builders.
And it's changing so fast. It
Yeah.
is so, I mean, I can't keep up with it all. I mean, that's kind of why I was so late to implement the BrainGrid MCP because it was just working great and so
Yeah.
fast already.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, yeah, it's, I just, it's just so cool.
It is. It's a great time to be alive. So one last question. What do you wish BrainGrid think about something that BrainGrid doesn't do today that you wish it would?
BrainGrid knows my code base. Cursor knows my current code base. But so many times I've gotten stuck troubleshooting because I don't have a button clicked in Supabase or in Mux or in GitHub or in ChatGPT. And those agents will try and go round and round and round looking at the code to figure out why something's not working when actually I just have the JWT thing turned on in Supabase instead of off. And
Yeah.
so when I think about integrating all these things, there's um, together, just could BrainGrid just see that dashboard? Not because it's
Yeah.
always that, right? Not because it's always a thing like that, but I have to catch myself sometimes if I'm going in a circle to just back up and be like, wait, look at my dashboard in this other service. Let's double check all the settings are right. So I would say that's like the biggest, the the most present,
Yeah.
I guess, thing for me right now.
Yeah. Since it essentially understands obviously not only your code, but the infrastructure, it knows what infrastructure you're running on, you're deployed upon. If you run into some issue like that, having it be a little more holistic in terms of how to troubleshoot something, taking into account all the pieces there.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
that
I
makes a
don't
lot of
even want to
sense.
get into the embarrassing things I've done in the name of not looking at the basics in some other dashboard.
Well, I mean, you're not alone. It's definitely happens to all of us. I mean, I ran into a situation where I was trying to figure out where a timeout was coming from. And was it my API that was being called? Was it the client that was calling it? Looking at both of those and completely forgetting about the fact that the MCP is hosted. And so the MCP being hosted in Cloud Run, well, there's a timeout there as well. And so sure enough, guess where the timeout was? And, like you, Claude Code was great at looking at all of the code, and BrainGrid was doing the same. And we completely forgot about the fact that we had another setting there in Google that needed to be, upped and fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's coming. I know it's
Yeah.
coming. It's a matter of time.
We'll keep working towards that. So, well, Kayleen, I love the story. I mean, it is obviously amazing to see people like yourself able to build software and build it well. This is coming from someone I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and there is nothing better than seeing, non-engineering, non-software engineering individuals like yourself come in and just absolutely crush it and be able to build the things that are in their head and get it in front of people and have people love it. So it's great to see and love having you as a customer. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for building BrainGrid. I don't
It
know
is.
what I'd do without it.
Thank you for that. It's our pleasure. So looking forward to keep seeing what you're building. So it's amazing.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
thanks. Appreciate it.